So, real quick before we get started, if you don't mind, a quick conversation. How has your business planning going? Have you finished?
Well, as long as you've known me, my struggle is accountability.
Right,
I have great ideas, I have great plans. I'm gonna, and then I don't. Or I end up doing things that are not productive. Like I've been spending time like I've had all these great ideas on social media posts or this or that. And then I get tied up in trying to edit and do this and that, and it's not productive.
right.
So then I'm like, okay, well, I just spent all this time saying I'm working, but am I working? you know?
I
And I
know, I
just
get it.
keep in this cycle, this spiral of that. It's awful. And I don't have anybody on my team, it's just me and my husband. Hold on a second. I'm running, so let me get settled in real quick. All right, so I don't have anybody to really keep me accountable. It's like I would love to have a team, but I don't want a team. But I would love to have, like, I do good if there's people that are also uh counting on me. So like if somebody's counting on me, I can uplift them and I can hold them accountable, but I can't hold myself accountable.
Right.
But I'm even finding myself like in the gym. Like I get up now and my main thing is I want to do this Bible study, but I'm not getting up early enough to do the Bible study, then get to the gym at the same time. I'm still getting up at the same time as I would have if I went to the gym. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go to the gym later. And then that never happens either. So I don't know.
So,
Not good.
what do you think's the first step in, because that's a lot of, I mean, it's basically a habit that I mean, I struggle with the same. I think everybody kind of struggles with it. Not everybody, but a lot of people do. What do you think is the first step to start kind of breaking that cycle?
Um, well, it's kind of like, does the chicken come before the egg? I say mindset, but then, mindset to sit down and make a plan and time block. So I don't know I think it begins with the mindset of doing.
So, if you're willing, because this is something I'm going to do, I'm going to start in November, but since you're on the call, if you're willing, in this group specifically, because I'm trying to re-engage the agents who basically pay for this group and don't come, but then also as we bring new people on starting in November, um, would you be willing to allow me to hold you accountable to some of the things that you say you want to do?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I need somebody because my husband's building. Yes, he's my broker and he's there for me. But yes, absolutely.
It's
Um,
very rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, and I'm not saying you can't do it, but it's very rare that your spouse, regardless of what they do, is a good accountability partner. Um,
okay.
it's my wife's. I'm not
Okay.
my wife's, and my wife is not mine.
Okay.
Yes, you can talk about it and you can have all these conversations, but at the end of the day, there's too much between in the emotion side, and I've yet to see a really good accountability conversation that happens between spouses, and it's just including mine. So,
I
um,
hadn't thought of that, but that's a very, very good and valid point. Thanks, Kevin.
yeah. So, here's what I'm going to start doing. And again, you have to be willing to do it because I can't force you to do it. But
Mhm.
what I want you to do is by Monday morning, I want you to take a picture of your calendar and I want you to send it to me. And then every morning, I'm going to send you a text, and you're going to send me a text back of what you accomplished the day before based off your calendar.
Okay.
I'm not
So
going to
my
have
homework this weekend is to get
is
my
to get
calendar filled up for next
is
week.
put the things on your calendar that are going to move your needle, both health, energy, relationship, opportunity, and your opportunities. So whatever you want to put on there, I would say if you want to go to the gym and you want to do Bible study, that needs to be on your calendar. It's on my calendar. My meditation's
Okay.
on my calendar. I did this years ago, and it literally is the only way that I have been able to move forward consistently is it's just on my calendar and it's an appointment, no matter what type of appointment it is, whether it's sleep or whether it's doing emails, it's an appointment. I can move those appointments, but and I talked about this, I think a little bit in the business planning event, but, and I'm going to give you something in a second that may help with that. But, um, I have green, so all my calendars got different colors, and my green is the things that I cannot erase from my calendar. So if I don't do it that day, I have to move it to the next day or sometime during the week. Does that make sense? There's
Yes.
there's there's a lot of stuff in my calendar. There's red, there's yellow, and all of those things are appointments as well. But if I don't get them done, I don't beat myself up on it. It's the green things that
Okay.
have to get done. So, um, and so you could do it green. I don't care what, I don't care if you color it or not. I'm just a pictured person. So, um, so I would say by Monday, I'll send you an email and a text. By Monday, I want you to take a picture of your calendar, put on there what we're going to be talking about here and what we talked about in the business planning that you want to get accomplished that makes sense for your goals. On Friday, we're going to spend kind of what we're doing now. We're going to spend 5 or 10 minutes. Whoever's on the call, we're going to go around. If it's just you, it's just you. But whoever's on the call, we're going to go around and we're going to basically have a really quick conversation around what happened that week, good, bad, or indifferent. Does that make sense?
I was hoping, yeah, I was hoping we'd had several networking events that same week that you had your business planning. And Jessica actually showed up to one of them. And so we got some people to come into your event that they're not necessarily real estate related. Cause I'm like, his coaching, you can apply to anything. And I was hoping that Holly, this lender, would have reached out and joined this. So I'm going to follow up with her too.
Okay.
Just to try and, cause helping build your business and accountability, that's
Yeah,
what
because
that's what we're
you're
supposed
right.
to do.
I mean, I literally spent this week is I do it 4 times a year where I coach inside of the inspection group, and these are inspectors, and then halfway through the week, the room changes from inspectors to business, just straight business owners. So roofers, water guys, things like that. I'm having the same conversations with them because, like you said, this is business. This is how you build a business, and the only reason I think it's important because I know it's important in my business. I know if I want to build my coaching business, or we want to continue to build our real estate business, there are certain things that we have to make sure we get done. And if you don't, you can look. You can almost always, if you start doing it and you get in the habit of it, you can look at in my world the green ones. The times that I don't do those things reflects into my personal or in my bank account and in my lead flow because those are the things that actually move the business. We got a lot of stuff we work on site, like you were talking about, on editing and things like that. These are things that have to get done if we're going to scale our business. But to generate the momentum in our business, we've got to get certain things done. Like when I was hustling, I had to do 2 open houses a week. There was no option. So if I had something like a perfect example, I got a text this morning from my son-in-law, and he wants me to go swimming with our grandson tomorrow at his swimming lessons because he's having something wrong with his arm. And I had something planned. Well, luckily it wasn't a green thing, but I'm like, okay, I can move that to the afternoon and still do this. But I don't get to like just take it off the calendar and go, I'm not going to do it that because I know it affects what I'm trying to accomplish. So that's what I'm going to institute. I think it's going to help as people get in. It's one extra value, and what'll happen is my system where the membership side is and things like that allows me to do mass texting. So we're going to start texting this group on a daily basis, just saying, hey, give me your numbers for last week or not yesterday. Tell me tell me the 2 things you wanted to accomplish and did you get it done? Just boom, 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 boom. Okay.
Well, and
Um,
what's sad is you've been telling me this and I've known it for 2 years. The stuff that you do works. It's just me making it's just, sometimes I get to that, point. Well, I can move this day or I can do this on another day. And then, let me just take a lunch. And then it just ends up, I don't know. What you say works. It's just, I've always, I don't know if it's time in life, but I've always been like self-motivated and able to do things, but just, I don't know. I don't know what funk I'm in. So,
well, I was gonna say, we all kind of get in a funk. I have been in one. I had literally told my wife yesterday. I said, This has been the oddest and most difficult day for the past 350 days. I mean, like this year, for whatever reason, is a year that I'm like, I cannot wait till 2026 because it has just been, there's been all these things that have been um, pushing us one way or another, not necessarily good or bad, just it's all this uncertainty and things like that. And a lot of it has to do with when I sit down and reflect on my own business, is that I am not consistently doing certain things. And I'm not putting my head down and making sure that this ball is moving forward. And so I wind up to that point, an hour turns into a week, a day turns into a week, and a week turns into a month, and nothing's been accomplished. Um, I've got certain things that programs that I've got that should have been launched 3 months ago that still haven't been launched because I just haven't put that as a priority. So we all deal with it. I have a coach, honestly, I have a coach that we meet once a month, and he's in the world of coaching and speaking and things like that. And he holds my feet to the fire every single time because he's like, this is what you want, but these things have to get done to get there. And it's like, you're right. So um, I eat my own cooking, so to speak. So
Gotcha.
let's get into the material. It's real simple, real
Okay.
quick. Basically, on the worksheet, it is the very first one is a tracker. So to this point, it's a very simple tracker. I've got a more complicated one inside the marketing edge, but this is literally just the 4 things that I know move the needle in any business, but specifically real estate business. Is conversations, appointments set, contact or touches, and then just those are the 3, and then writing notes and putting them in your CRM. So
And
uh,
where is this
so it's in
tracker?
the membership group. I sent you an email. It has a link to that
Okay.
to the
That,
site, and you can
okay.
download it from there. Um,
Okay.
so number one, the absolute number one, and I've talked about it for a while, but the absolute number one measure of your business is how many conversations are you having a day, real
Mhm.
estate related, period, and full stop. So we often feel busy and we often are busy, and we don't see that reflected into our business, goals and revenue. And it usually has a 99% chance because we're just not having the conversations. We're doing all the other stuff, but we're not having the conversations. And so we have got to, specifically, especially when you're not buying leads, which I haven't bought leads in years. And even if I bought leads, I wouldn't buy them from Zillow and stuff like that. So it still would have conversations. But especially if you're not buying leads, you have to initiate conversations. So that's network, like to your point, networking, your sphere. If you can't get enough out of those open houses for sale by owners, expireds, whatever it is that you have determined in your business that you are going to have real estate conversations, we got to measure that. And so that's going to be one of the things that I'm going to ask every single day because and this strictly comes from a one-on-one coaching relationship that I normally do. I do this with my one-on-one clients, but I figured out in my system how I can do it for the group, and it still not take a ton of time because it's literally just a automated text that I can send out and I get it back, as people enter it in. So conversations number one. So set by Monday, set how many conversations you plan on having every single day, 5 days a week. I don't care. I'm not going to judge that number right now. I want to see the consistency of the conversations. And whether that's a
Okay.
DM, a text, or a face to face or a phone call, obviously face to face phone calls are the best. You cannot, the thing about conversations though, is you cannot measure or you cannot say it's a conversation if you send a DM or a text and no one answers because that's not a conversation.
Gotcha.
That's a reach out. That's a touch. Okay. And you are going to
Gotcha.
measure touches. So what I want you to be able to do by the end of the year, Sherry, and everybody who's watching this, if you're watching on the record, is I want you to kind of have an idea of when I talk to X amount of people, if I contact X amount of people, I talk to X amount of people. And out of those X amount of people, I know I'm getting a real estate lead conversation. So those 3 measurements of how many people am I reaching out to? So touches, how many people actually I'm having conversation with, and then how many of those conversations turn into a potential lead in the next 12 months. When you can have those numbers, it becomes a little bit clearer on daily activities of what's going to move the needle. That's why I always talk about when I talk about open houses, my metric of 4 open houses to 1 deal. Because once I figured that number out, then it became really clear on how many open houses I needed to be doing. If I wanted 12 deals, it was 48 open houses in a year. I mean, just that's, and so that was a really strong measurement and an accountability, because then I would tell my coach, I want 6 deals from open houses or 12 deals in the year, and they could hold accountable to that. And I knew it would turn into business. Most of the time, we don't, um, we don't have enough conversations because we don't know we don't know those conversations, how they turn into actual deals. Like there's too much ambiguity. There's too much like, well, who should I talk to and how many should I, and so it winds up just not getting done. So the only way to really know is to measure it. So we're going to measure conversations, appointments set, and touches. Okay. So those are the 3 measurements that we're going to measure until the end of the year. I would say we're going to measure it longer than that. But so that's all I'm going to ask you for in the mornings. And then any notes that you want to include in it, like any, conversations around this happened, or can you help me on this, that kind of thing. Um,
How do you want me to send my calendar on Monday morning?
just take a
I don't have
picture.
your I don't
Just,
have
just,
your phone number.
um, good question. Okay. So here, I'll put it in the chat. You guys should have my phone number. That's true.
Courtney was really good at keeping people from having that. She protected you very well.
I appreciate it. And she was probably the best at it, to be honest with you.
She's I love Courtney.
So that's my cell phone number. Just know when I give it out, it's not, and I'm just saying this for the recording. Just know when I give it out, I don't necessarily answer it if it's not a burning emergency. I will always
Gotcha.
answer something within 24 hours. I never not answer a text, but if it's not a 911, I may be doing other things. So it's just not a priority. Like I always say, if you want to get a hold of me, text me. If you call me, more than likely, and I'm not going to answer, just because of how I run my life, but I will always answer the text at some point. If it's not a burning emergency, obviously, I'll answer it within a 24-hour period.
Okay.
Okay, so that's number 1. So basically, the calendar, or the tracker, is really simple. Monday through Friday, conversations, appointments, content touches, and then notes. And at the very end on Fridays, wins, lessons, and what adjustments are you going to make? Okay, so
Okay.
here's how that would look. Your wins: I got 2 appointments, or I had 2 great conversations. 2 people are wanting to sell next year. Awesome, that's a win. Lessons: I got tied up with a meeting when I should have been lead genning, and I didn't get it done that day. So I need to make sure I block that time off. I put a buffer in between. That's a lesson. And then any adjustments would be, I talked to 10 people and I got no real estate leads from it. Okay. So what adjustments do we need to make? We either need to talk to more people, or we need to talk to a different pool of people, right? So when we start doing that, our business, it's not necessarily going to be a win when we first start. But what we're going to do is, and this is how I started building my business, is I became clear on what my activities needed to be, at least the 4 or 5 things. And so then like when I started calling for sale by owners, the first deal I got from it, like the first listing and then closing on the deal, turned a light bulb on me. It's like, okay, so how many for sale by owners did I talk to, or talk to, build a relationship with, and then eventually a listing? Once I knew that, then it was like, okay, well, then I just need to call 20 people, 20 for sale by owners every week. Out of those 20, I'm going to get 11 appointments. Out of those 11 appointments, preview appointments, I'm going to be able to build a relationship with 10 of them. And out of those 10, I get 1 listing in the next 4 weeks. Okay, well, then I call 20 a week, and nothing else matters until that happens. So it doesn't mean I
Gotcha.
call 20 in a day, but it does mean before Friday I call 20. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So networking would be the same way. Everybody likes to talk about networking. I like networking. I just think when you do networking, you should always personally have a business conversation around your business, to build your business. So you should always be thinking when you go to a networking event, and I would say you should always be thinking, if you go to a family networking event,
Mm-hmm.
keeping your ears and your eyes open to be able to have a real estate conversation, because then it becomes an actual business conversation. And again, you know this, you've been in the business long enough. it is next to impossible. I've really never seen any agent do it at scale where you can separate your personal and your business life. Like they just kind of do this, right? You don't want to come off
Because they
sales.
always come to you and talk to you and ask you questions.
Yeah, you don't want to come off salesy. You don't want to be that person who talks real estate at the drop of a hat, and you're the one bringing it. You don't want necessarily be that person, but you just I was especially new realtors, because they fear the salesy conversation. I'm like, you just need to know your business is your personal and your personal is your business. You are an entrepreneur. This is your main thing that you do to join. You don't get to go to work 8 to 5, and then leave it at the office. Yours
Mm-mm.
is everything you do is about figuring out where those leads are, where those opportunities are. So it doesn't mean you're salesy, but it does mean your eyes and ears are open. And what will happen is, as you start trying, if you haven't, you'll start training your basically your consciousness to think about that, and you will have conversations where you never even thought you would have, in spots that you never thought you would have. Like literally, I've had conversations at the gym, I've had conversations at restaurants, I've had people like, and it's, I don't have any idea how it came about, other than I was always on the lookout. And like I'd sit at a bar and all of a sudden someone's talking about real estate, or they're talking about the economy. I get into a conversation of the economy, and then eventually works into real estate. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're a realtor? You see what I'm saying? So if you're always open to it, it's going to happen more than you probably think. All right. So I beat that one. Um, Number two on this is some scripts, some very simple scripts. Obviously, I always refer back to ChatGPT if you want more scripts, because it's right now it's really, really good. But this one is like just a hello to the holidays. Again, I've beat that one for the past month or half, month or two, about just calling people around the holidays. So that's going to be your sphere reconnect for Q4, is just make sure you have reached out to everybody in your sphere at some point between now and the end of the year. And so I would always say, when you're thinking about your business, let's say next week you put your calendar and you say, I'm going to do, you know, 3 hours of lead gen throughout the week. Okay. A portion, if not a major portion of that, needs to be your sphere right now. And because you just need to reconnect with them or connect with them over the holidays so that you can prime your business for next year as you get into those business conversations. It doesn't have to be anything real estate related, especially with your sphere. Just has to be a connect or a reconnect. And, just talk about the holidays, whatever. And, happy holidays, happy Halloween, all that kind of stuff. And then, oh, if you have any old leads that you have, like I still
Mm-hmm.
have old leads in my business, that my wife is starting to reconnect with. Um, and it's literally just trying to re-engage them, texting or calling, around, are you still in the in the are you still thinking about making a move? If so, or have you made a move, depending on where your lead, how old the lead is? Did you ever find your house? Did you ever sell your house? If not, are you still in the market to do that sometime? And you're just
Actually,
go
I
ahead.
actually looked up somebody that I'd met at an open house, um, and I still have all their information. I called them, and well, before I called them, because they never ever respond to anything I send them, text, email, voicemail. I looked up their address to see if they still own the house because they're in California, and I thought, well, maybe they had already gotten here, or whatever, and looked up their address and saw that they still own that house. Now they may be renting it out, but I still haven't gotten a no from them. Leave me alone. So I'm still bothering them. But is that
Yeah, I mean,
creepy to
I mean,
do that kind of work?
I have a similar story, and I have a success story from it. I bothered. They really never connected with me. I can't remember if I met him at an open house or if it was a school function. That was a past life, it was a, not a sphere, but I had a lot of people that I moved in like I had a database at school, both of my schools. I didn't necessarily know everybody. I didn't know their parents per se, but when I left, I like scraped the database and dropped it in my CRM. So I'm like, well, there's a pretty good chance they know me because I was the athletic director and head football coach. I may not know them, but it's at least a softer intro. But anyway, I probably did it for, I want to say 9 or 10 months. And they finally chimed in. And one of the things they said was, we don't know anybody, and you keep sending us stuff. And so we just want to use you because you're
Hmm.
persistent. And I was like, huh, that's a lesson learned right there. Because to your point, if they don't want to use you, they will eventually, especially if they eventually move, they'll probably say, quit sending me stuff because we've already made a move. And it's like, okay, well, now you can move them off of the bother list, right? Um, I always say you're not bothering anybody until they tell you you're bothering them. In our head, we
Gotcha.
think we bother people all the time, but the reality is we don't know what's going on the other side of that text or that call, that voicemail, whatever. So you just until they say, "Hey, we've already made a move. Hey, leave me alone. Hey, who the hell are you?" Whatever that kind of stuff is, and then you can go, "Okay, well, don't have to talk to them anymore. It's one less person." All right, and so the last one is so it's Sphere, old lead, wake ups, and then vendor collabs. So getting with your vendors, that's part of the event that I did, the clinic. Getting with your vendors between now and the end of the year, I would say just try doing one a week or one every other week. Having an appointment, maybe going to lunch, maybe going by their office, whatever, depending on your vendor, and just say, I have a goal of X amount next year. How can we help each other? I want to help you with your business. I want you to help me with my business. What things can we do? Can we do some co-marketing together? Like there's a lot of lenders out there that will be more than happy to pay, $250 to do a mailer if it's going to, possibly create them business, and you just split that cost. If you have again title people, you make sure that all the tools that they have, that if you, especially if you're like farming stuff like that, I know with Jessica, they have the farming tool, I have the farming tool, but being able to like say, okay, I gotta meet with this person, get this done for next year and start implementing. It's just getting that off your plate. And I would say the way you plan it is one every other week, or one. I'd say we have 6 weeks now left total because 3 of the weeks are already 3 weeks over the next 8 weeks is burnt because you got Christmas, you got Thanksgiving, and you got New Year's Eve week, which no one work. Very few people actually do anything of substance then. So I always just take those out and go, well, we have about 6 weeks left until the end of the year of working time. And so figure out what that looks like. Put the appointments. If you got 5 vendors, that means one a week. Make sense?
So are you talking about when you say vendors, are you talking industry specific? Or could it
I would talk.
be
I would say I look at vendors as potential what they call mavens, which are people that can get you in front of or help you with more people than just them. So they have a data. Some of them have a database they'll share. Some of them, like my landscaper, shared their database with me, and I shared my database with them. I would send landscaping deals to my database that he would say, hey, spring $50 off of mulching for the thing, and I would say, hey, I use them, you should use them, and here's a deal. So I would share my database and they would share. So it doesn't necessarily have to be industry specific. It probably will be for the majority because you've got, your lenders, your title, your home warranty, things like that. But everybody, you should have a conversation. If you're going to recommend anybody for your clients, you should have already had, especially you, because you've been doing this for a while, you should have already had a previous conversation about what's in it for both of y'all. Does that make sense?
well, not do, but I kind of feel like when it's industry specific, like let's talk about lenders. They deal with hundreds of agents. And
Yep.
and one thing I have talked to them about is like saying, well, I know you talk to a lot of agents or do business with them, but has anybody asked you to please, like I've asked them to send me business. Um, because usually people already have, they're doing it backwards. They already have agents when they get to the lenders. But I kind of feel like they already have a lot of agents in their pocket. So I'm trying to think of what vendors I can reach out to that
Yeah.
I
Here's what I
could.
would say. With vendors, you're not really thinking about getting business directly from them. That's
Okay.
I'm not saying you don't, but I'm just saying that shouldn't really be the main goal for an agent is to get business from their vendors. What it should, my opinion is how do we partner to get business for both of us? So whether that's a ad spend partnership like a lender can do, how can I would say just because I know title, getting with your title person and say I need a farm that I need to start talking to next year or this year. I'm going to send Christmas cards out into this farm. You have a tool. I want you to sit down with me, pull this farm for me, and help me create, a Canva thing or da da da. And then that way they're actually invested in your business. So you want to use your vendors for um, building the business, not necessarily just get a deal. Because most vendors, to your point, most vendors do work with a lot of agents, and it's really impractical I'm not saying they won't do it, but it's impractical to be that's the expectation. I'm not saying, because I had vendors that would give me business, like I've helped them with their houses, I've helped them with their parents' houses, but these are that's the landscapers, the plumbers. Usually when you're talking about home warranty and title and things like that, you're right. They work with so many, you have to have a special relationship to be the one. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that I don't think of that as the primary. My primary is, how can you help me? Usually marketing wise, it's going to usually be around the marketing space. How can you help me build my marketing framework? I had a lender, perfect example, and I'll get on to the last one. I had two lenders. One got the majority of my business, but I always had one that was like either brand new or hungry. Okay, so it's usually synonymous, but not always. And they would rotate through. Those are the people that went to my open houses. They would sit in the open house with me. They would buy the cookies. Okay, so I didn't have to worry about that. I always had a lender that would, not always, but I'd say 90% of the time. It's great if you've done open houses. Obviously, it's good when you have somebody else there to talk to and things like that. But really, that was their thing. You provide the cookies, and anybody that I meet, you get to meet, and then any of those people, they're your leads. They're my leads. Okay, so just kind of thinking outside the box there. Okay, last one, and then we're done. And this is what the challenge is about anyway. It literally is about time blocking. So actually, that's why I said the calendar. Actually put on your calendar when you're going to do these things, like, and be specific. Like, I'm going to call. Like, it's going to get to a point, if you will do this, it's going to get to a point where every week when you're going to call for sale by owners, if that's what you choose to do. When you're going to actually network. Instead of just saying lead gen in that block on your calendar, it will actually say what kind of lead gen are you doing. But right now you may not know that. So as long as it just says lead gen, you're going to do it from 10 to 11, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if that's what you decide, or every day. And then we're going to talk about, as we get into the accountability, what are you doing in that hour? How many people did you actually have a conversation with? And
Okay.
who are those people? All right. And
All
so
right.
basically you calendar, and here's what I want you to think about. Your calendar should look like your job. So if you ever had a job, there were certain times of the day that you couldn't do anything because you're at your job. Your calendar would be reflective that you have a job, and your job is to build your business. So if it may not when we first start, but by the end of the year, there should be enough time blocks that you're like, okay, yeah, this looks like a 20, 30 hour a week job because this is what you have to do to build a business. Okay.
All right.
All right.
Gotcha.
Awesome. All right. Well, have a
It's
great
great.
weekend. I'll remind you to send it to me before Monday.
All right. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate you.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.